Hi, Jonathan from Live Life Coach. Are you or someone you know feeling stuck, searching for direction, or wanting a clearer sense of what's next? You're welcome to connect with me. Whether you're exploring practical next steps or seeking God's leading, I'm always open to a genuine, no pressure conversation. I'm sure you've heard the saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You know, there's this idea that we're not able to learn new things. The older we get, the harder it is to learn. That old story of getting a dog who's, say 6 years old, not been trained in something, you can never teach them a new trick. But I don't think that's quite right, and that's often applied to us as people. That people go, you can't teach them anything. They're stuck in their ways. They'll never move on. They'll never change. But the right person helping somebody along can help somebody change. Our minds have the ability to adapt and change. Science used to tell us, not even that long ago, that our brains stopped learning at a certain age. We got to a certain point and we'd no longer be able to learn anything new. That was it. Our brain cells started dying, and there we just kept on. We would go on a downward spiral. But the reality is our brains actually keep growing. They don't die, and we can learn new things. Our brains are forever regenerating themselves. They are forever growing these new pathways in our mind, and we can keep learning new things. And it's something that I enjoy is to continue learning and to move on and to make changes and to do things differently, to find new ways of doing things with new people and different things. Now, a guy's brain and a girl's brain, they do operate differently. There is a different way that people learn, how guys learn, how girls learn. I saw a really funny video one time of I think it was a professor. He was saying how guys think and how ladies think. And he's using this whole thing of guys have a set of drawers in their brain, and that's their brain, that's their thinking. And when they want to go fishing, they pull out the fishing drawer where they go fishing. And then when they come home, they put that away, they bring out the home drawer. And then when they go to work, they put that away, they bring out the work drawer. And they are very compartmentalized and working through things one step at a time. And a lot of ladies would go, yeah, that's right. That's the way guys think. And some guys would be like, yeah, true, that's the case. That is how often we think. We can compartmentalize very well these different things that we're working on. We can be focused on this one thing, and that's where the whole you can't multitask comes from. That guys are focused, they're doing one thing, that's it. There was a bit of I don't know if I should say this, but a bit of a funny joke that if you can sit on the toilet and read the newspaper at the same time, you're multitasking. Good on you. But there's all these funny little things that we are taught, that we believe that probably aren't actually true. It probably is quite true that guys do tend to compartmentalize and to get one drawer out, work on that thing, pull it away, get the next drawer out. And it's not necessarily a bad thing that it works that way. But for a lady, it has been shown that with ladies, there's a whole different way they think. And one thing leads to another thing, leads to another thing, leads to another thing. And their brain is totally interconnected. Their thoughts and their thinking all interconnects with each other, and one thought will lead on to another thought and another thing, and it just keeps on going. They're like the messy string that's all tangled up, and it's going everywhere and it's doing everything, and they just they have that process of thinking where they can jump around and just change things pretty quick and pretty on the go. But again, can they multitask? There's that argument that multitasking is not actually that good. It's not actually as good as everyone makes out, because you end up doing lots of little things and not really getting anything major done. So it can be a bit of a catch-22. Should we really say we can multitask or not? Don't know. But if you think you can and it works for you, great, that's fantastic. But the big point really is that with our brains, we're not limited to what we can learn. You can be any age and you can continue to learn something new. I've heard of stroke patients who they used to, often stroke patient will end up with a limp arm or a leg or something that won't function properly anymore. And they used to just sort of strap it up and go, well, that's fine, that's the way it's going to be for the rest of your life. What they've started doing is reversing that and actually strapping up the good arm and forcing the bad arm to work. Reason being is that then it forces the brain to relearn how to use that arm. And it's not that that arm's totally gone. Some cases it might be, but in a lot of cases they can actually regenerate and relearn the service through that arm, and they can really grow and learn again how to use that arm. Just like somebody who has a major car accident and they lose the use of their legs. Some of those who are fortunate do get that ability back to be able to walk again, but they have to learn to walk again. Not as a 1-year-old kid, but as a 20, 30, 40-year-old who has to learn to walk again. And that's something that the brain has to relearn, because for some reason it's forgotten how to do it. But that's the thing, it's there, it can be learnt in again, it can be carried on with. And so, the idea that we stop learning is pretty crazy. Our brains keep growing, and there's two sides to it though. We can teach our brains and our minds to be learning good stuff or be to learning bad stuff. And there are things that we can work on and do that actually degrade our brain, that actually do make us less brainy, make us less capable, because those things take away the abilities that we need. And I think there's probably some grounds around scrolling on your phone. I'm guilty of it. I scroll on my phone for a certain amount of time. Not as much as some people, but certainly probably more than I really need to be. And is that really helping us to learn? All it's really doing is giving us 5 seconds, 10 seconds of interaction with something on a screen. It's a dopamine hit. We get a real hit of interest and we go, yeah, this is cool, and we want more. That's why we keep scrolling. We keep looking for that next thing. That's not the way we should be learning. To be learning, we should be taking the time to actually go and do a skill. Get outside, learn how to prune a rose, learn how to make a little box out of wood, how to drive a manual car. How many people out there know how to drive a manual car now? I was really surprised, It's kind of like that saying, you never forget how to ride a bike. I hadn't driven a manual car properly for probably at least 15 years. I've got an old classic car at home. It had been in the garage, needed repairing, needed to be fixed up, but it had been put aside. Business, kids, all that sort of thing had come into play. And so it just got left in the garage. It wasn't a priority. And then I came back to it, and I finally got it back on the road after about 16, 17 years. Put it back on the road, and I was so surprised that I only stalled probably once, and that was because I was sitting in the driveway, getting my seatbelt sorting out a couple of things, totally didn't even think about it, and dropped my foot off the clutch. But other than that, I haven't really stalled that car at all. It has just kept going. I just jump in there without even thinking about it. I know exactly where the gears are. I know exactly how to drive it, and away I go. And you'd think after 15 years of not having driven a manual car, I'd be struggling. But no, it's still there. It's in my memory. It's burnt in. It's that idea of going through the different levels of competency. Let's take the example of driving a car. So when you start learning to drive a car, you start with a case of, you've got a conscious incompetence of how to drive a car. In other words, you're aware of what you need to do to drive a car, but you're not competent to drive the car because you've never driven it before. You don't know what you need to do. So therefore, when you start to learn, you become consciously competent. As you get to understand it, you have to think about it, but you start to get to the point where you can start and stop, and you can turn corners, and you can do that sort of thing. Then you become to a point where, so you have that conscious competence, and so it's pretty natural, it comes along all right. Then you get to a point where you get an unconscious competence. And that's sort of the ultimate, where you can just, if you're like myself, been driving for many years, you can jump in the car, you drive off somewhere, you get to a point, you go, how did I actually get here? You have no idea, really, sort of no recollection of what did I do to actually get here. You just know you knew how to get there, you knew how to drive the car, and it was easy to do. There was no real drama behind it. You just got in, you went, away you go. Just like me getting into a manual car after 15 years of driving automatic, pretty much solely automatic. Maybe the odd manual car thrown in here and there, but nothing serious. And to jump into a manual car, and away I go. I've got the unconscious competence to drive that manual car and just go for it. And so we can do that in life with many things, there's always a period of learning. We're going to have that conscious, incompetent start. We're going to know some stuff, but we're not going to be good at it. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to fail, and there's nothing wrong with failing. Failure teaches us. It's a learning experience. It's not a failure. Sometimes some things just don't work out. Is it a failure? Well, if you didn't learn anything, it's a failure. But if you take that experience and you put it into something new, you learn from it, you go, okay, I made that mistake last time, I'm not going to make it again. That old saying that if you continue to make the same mistakes, then you're not learning, you're just carrying on there. Then what's the point? But if you're learning from your mistakes, you go, I won't do that again, I'll move on. Now I know a better way to do it. Old Einstein, wasn't it, he was creating the light bulb. He never said that he made 999 mistakes. He found 999 ways to not make a light bulb. And then he found that 1000th way that worked. Whether it was that much or not, I don't know. But, it's a learning case, and we have the ability to learn. Sometimes we need somebody to help us learn, though. Sometimes we need somebody to help us to move along the path to get from that conscious incompetence through to unconscious competence, so that we can things just become part of life. And life is like that. There's times where we have an idea, we think, yep, I know what I'm doing, go for it, and it doesn't work out. And so there's the thing that I like, we can learn from others. When we talk to other people, we can learn from their mistakes. And if you're willing to listen and to understand, then you can cut a lot of stuff out and actually make some progress forward. And that's where coaching can really help as well. Coaching can help you make those decisions, work out those thoughts, be able to work through things and really see where you're going, what you're doing. Just thrash that idea out. Is this a good idea or not? What are you actually telling yourself? Often we have this imposter syndrome. We go, oh, I don't know if I can do that. Should I be doing that? Well, I don't know. And we'll battle with ourselves. Whereas if you talk with somebody else, that battle seems to simmer down and you can actually thrash it out. Their ideas, their thoughts, their questions to you help you work through those things and go, actually, here's a better way, or here's this way, or actually, no, I'm on the right track. And that's where I want to be going and what I want to be doing. It'd be something as big as changing your job after many years, and thinking, is this career that I'm going to go into, is that the right one? Or is this job place that I'm going to go to, is that the right one? It could be something like, you're going to get married. Is she the right girl? Is she not? Don't know. All these things that go through our head that we struggle with. Sometimes it helps to have somebody else to talk to. And it's not always an advantage to talk with friends or family. Sometimes you need somebody unbiased, separate from you, who's outside the picture, who can just help you really work through those ideas, work through those thoughts, help you learn and change and grow. So if you're needing some assistance, you're needing some help, hey, I'm always here for a conversation. Love to chat with you and see where we can take the journey with you. Have a great day.